we're continuing to follow this story. Peter Ducey just arriving at the scene there. As we mentioned, Peter, thank you. We are still awaiting that press conference to start from the Sheriff's Department. We will bring you back there again live immediately when that happens. In the meantime, the suspected shooter did not appear to want to hide his identity, as we've just been discussing, allegedly sending a 23-page fax as well to ABC News in New York and posting several first-person videos of the shooting online. Here's some of the earlier file video of the shooter doing reporter stand-ups when he worked in Florida, I believe. And as Peter mentioned, the suspect posting messages on Twitter just this morning. He makes accusations of racism. Now, here they are. And even more troubling, he posted video from his vantage point of shooting the victims. We will not show that video on Fox, as it is truly disturbing. Twitter has since suspended that account, and it's time to bring in Steve Cardian, former investigator, police sergeant, and director at defenduniversity.com. I don't recall in my 25-plus years in the TV business of anyone ever taking video of they've taken video of crimes, but then posting a murder on social media. Have you ever remembered anything like that?
No, I've investigated a number of homicides, murder-suicides in this case, and I have never seen it to this length. It gives digital media a whole new meaning, a disturbing meaning. It's not digital media's fault. However, this is the platform he chose to have his 15 minutes of fame, to let the world know how angry he was and that he did such a cowardly act.
So he puts it on Twitter, he puts it on Facebook. Those accounts were then suspended about 10 minutes later, but now it lives on places like YouTube and other places. So is this a new wave of crime and how we're going to handle it? I mean, what do we do?
Unfortunately, we see this happen, and it's likely that it'll happen again. There'll be some sort of a copycat that will do this type of thing. Again, we have access to it, instant access with our cell phones. So for people like this to get the word out, to let the world know what he's done, to him, again, it was his 15 minutes of fame.
Mm-hmm. What do you do as an employer? Because earlier we heard from the general manager of this television station who said that he was hard to work with and that they ultimately decided that they had to terminate him. He had filed then a complaint against them of racism. And, he said he was a disgruntled employee. Were there other red flags? I mean, could the station have done anything differently?
Well, I was listening to his interview, and it appears that he did everything that he possibly could have. They recognized early on that he was problematic. He's been problematic since 2010 in the media business. They felt the urge enough to bring in police because he's that much of a time bomb, if you will. So I don't know what they could have done, but we do know in law enforcement that somebody somewhere knew that he was going to do this or knew he was capable of this. Hard to stop.
Well, what do you
hard
mean
to
by
predict.
That?
Someone in his family, someone that may be a friend, someone maybe that follows him on social media, knew that he was possibly capable of doing something like this.
Well, speaking of knowing something, so when you go out and do these live reports, I looked on this young woman's Twitter account. She did not say where she was going to be this morning. So how would he have known where they were going to be at 6:45 a.m. and the both of them together? Apparently, he was mad at both of them. Could there have been possibly somebody on the inside of the station who knew where they were being dispatched to, and what kind of trouble would they be in now?
It was probably, if it was done in a very subtle way. Maybe he is still staying in contact with someone at the station. However, look at what went into this. How much timing and thought on his part that went into this. Law enforcement is going to look at his life with a fine-tooth comb because we want to know why. We want to know how could we possibly prevent this from happening again. They're going to go through his entire life with a fine-tooth comb.
Well, what do you make of the fact that, reporters go out, videographers go out 24/7 to cover stories? Many of the times they're dangerous. Is this going to change the way in which we do our business?
I think today, going forward, it is. You're going to look at it differently. The people in the media, just like law enforcement, especially the people that are out in the field, you're putting your life out on the line every day. You are out there with law enforcement. You're out there covering stories like 9/11, watching your neighbors, pass away. Mm-hmm. So it is going to change. It has to change because this will happen again.
All right. I just want to remind our viewers, as you can see on the screen, we are awaiting this live press conference. This is coming out of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office in Hardy, Virginia. This will be the first time that we have heard from law enforcement officials. It was supposed to start about 11 minutes ago. Of course, they're trying to get all their ducks in a row, and more information that keeps coming in on this story as it continues to break throughout the day. That started at 6:45 a.m. Eastern time this morning when those shootings happened. I want to continue the conversation now with Steve Cardian. Let's talk about this fax, this manifesto, that apparently this suspect, known as Bryce Williams, he also had another name, Vester Lee Flanagan II. But what about this manifesto? He apparently faxed it last night to ABC News, 23 pages. They have since handed it over to authorities.
I think it's going to be a book of what was going on in his head prior and leading up to this incident. I think there's going to be a lot of information in that manifesto and a lot of information that's going to be helpful.
In 23 pages,
yeah.
One would assume that it could be one long rant of maybe his entire life of anger, where he had other problems at other stations. Steve, stand by, if you will, because we're going to continue following this story as we continue to wait for this press conference to start.